Avatar the live action... Avatar The Last Airbender is the live-action remake of a cartoon with the same name, about an airbender named Aang who has reappeared after 100 years. Turns out he's the Avatar, and so he goes on an adventure with waterbender Katara and warrior Sokka to save the world from the Fire Nation's 100-year war. If I had to describe Avatar the live-action in one word, it is duality. The stuff that's good about this show is really good and I enjoyed it, but the stuff that is lacking royally pissed me off, which means you get the pleasure of both listening to an unhinged rant whilst also enjoying a little bit of a spaz over the jingling of keys. But one thing is for certain, no matter what you think of this live action, it's probably better than that bad dream that I had in 2010. Things I liked about Avatar the live action. It surpassed my very low expectations. Coming into this show, I wanted two things. Number one, do not tarnish Sokka's character. Number two, don't be Chinese propaganda. The only thing I knew coming into this show was that it was happening, Bright had jumped ship, and that Sokka was going to tone down the sexism. And I was terrified for that third change, but it wasn't as bad as I anticipated. If anything, it makes Suki look more like a bitch, but on behalf of Jack Decina, better her than me. Just for context, Sokka is my favourite character of all time, right? And I still haven't fully forgiven Bright on how they handled his death in The Legend of Korra. The Legend of Korra. Thankfully, the creators did the best they could here to be as faithful to the cartoon as possible. I'll have plenty to complain about later, but bro, the way Sokka was shown here is just like the underdog story from Avatar The Last Airbender. The fact that even though you aren't the most physically strong or naturally gifted, you can still win by being the smartest and having the most heart. Like that scene in the Cave of Two Lovers between him and Katara? Oh my, what a bittersweet moment of a realization that you're not the person who you looked up to, but the satisfaction that you can change the world in your own ways. Shout outs to Ian Owsley for his portrayal of Sokka. He did a fantastic job. Though bro, you're a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo. We both know that this isn't gonna work in a real fight. As for my latter problem, well, I don't feel as Mulan as I anticipated, so I guess that counts for something, right? The Fire Nation portrayal. The Fire Nation characters are without a doubt the best portrayals in this entire series. Dallas Liu really did his homework before this show, because he honestly is a mini Dante Bosco. He perfectly captures every emotion of Zuko. The frustration, the anger, the determination, yet still never being an unlikable brat, is carbon copy to the story that Bright told all those years ago. They flesh out his relationship with Iroh a lot more than the original season 1, which I'm okay with because, again, they try to make it as faithful as they can, and when they do add stuff, it's never stuff that's out of character for anyone in the Fire Nation. If anything, these additions make me respect the characters a lot more. Speaking of Iroh, his portrayal did initially leave me with a bitter taste in my mouth, but it did grow on me. Because, yes, there are moments that did change his character, but the goofy uncle with all the answers is still there, and I'm happy they didn't bastardize Iroh as I feared. On the topic of additions, yes, it is anachronistic to add Azula in this season. But here's the thing, guys. Nothing that happens during the Azula arc actually has that much of a difference in the real show. All the Azula side of the story adds some perspective to the character. Is it so wrong to say that Azula would be jealous that Zuko caught the Avatar? Would it be fair to say that Azula also wants Ozai's approval? Yes, I am not denying that Azula is put in this season purely for fan service, but I'm okay with people adding additions to source material so long as it supplements the lore rather than replacing it. Now, do not let these comments age like milk and give Azula a redemption arc. I beg of you. But the adaptation I was surprisingly impressed by was Zhao. In the show, he was this stubborn, pragmatic man who only cared about himself. But now, Zhao is a stubborn, pragmatic threat who only cares about himself. Whether it was down to the performances or the writing, I was genuinely concerned for Zuko, because Zhao had his number at times. Yeah, really don't know what more to say. I liked the way that they portrayed the Fire Nation. Jingling of keys. I was going to write an entire essay about this section, but honestly I think my reactions would speak louder than whatever the hell I have scripted.
Only the Avatar, master
Man,
of all
oh, she
forces,
sings the thing.
stop them. But when the world needed him most,
he vanished. Okay, I tried that.
and so the Fire Nation marched and laid waste.
So far so good. So far really good. They're doing the thing. They're doing the thing. That's your wife. Ooh, that's from the comics.
Pennant belonged to the Mother of Faces.
I love Zhao's portrayal. He's such a cunt, just like in the show. Literally, this scene is frame for frame perfect. That's cool. That is cool. That is really cool. I'm just saying this now. That is cool as hell.
It's him.
These people need the Avatar.
And they gotta deal with it.
trying to tell you is
Kick his ass.
go kick his ass.
Oh, he actually said go kick his ass. Oh! Look in the mirror. He did the same shot. Ah! It's not over. Oh my fucking god. Things I didn't like about Avatar the live action. If you haven't seen Avatar, watch the cartoon. I don't know what more I have to say about this. I've seen this series twice, and the second time I watched it with my cousin, who knows very little if anything about Atla. So, he was not able to appreciate the nostalgia baiting, nor was he able to feel frustrated over historical inaccuracies. So, if you want to enjoy this series, or not necessarily enjoy it, but get the most out of it, watch the original show. Because some stuff will just not make any sense. Speaking of which, historical inaccuracies. Now, I'm not stupid. Of course, live action is live action, and you do not have the freedom to do whatever you want like you have with animation. So I can mostly forgive if they leave stuff out of the plot, but there are some inaccuracies that I just cannot forgive. I'm not going to go through all of them, but here are the main historical inaccuracies that pissed me off in Avatar the live action. We'll first discuss the trip to Kyoshi Island in the second episode. Suki really shouldn't have L game. In the originals, she's very playful, even at Sokka's sexist remarks about girls being worse at fighting. And this training arc with Sokka is not meant to have this many romantic hints. Zuko is supposed to attack Kyoshi Island alone, without Zhao. Sokka is supposed to wear a Kyoshi warrior's outfit. Do you really think Zhao is going to buy the fact that there are no guests on the island when it's blatantly obvious someone is wearing Water Tribe clothes? Aang turning into Kyoshi is anachronistic, as this should happen in Season 2. Not only that, but when it does happen, Kyoshi only admits that she killed Chin the Conqueror, and had nowhere near the impact she did compared to the live action. Kyoshi is not the one supposed to whoop ass through Aang. Roku is, and in about 10 episodes or so. Speaking of Roku, he basically doesn't do shit in this show. Roku is supposed to be Aang's mentor for the vast majority of the show, telling him about Sozin's comet, the Avatar state, and even that he should kill Ozai. It makes the scene where Aang cuts him off in The Promise that much more impactful. The next major set of historical inaccuracies that riled me up is in episode 4. The Cave of Two Lovers was first explored in season 2. It is also very important that Aang was there because it's the first time him and Katara is shown to have a mutual romantic relationship. It is also their expression of love that guided the gang out of the tunnel. Even though the music here is really good and it requires a lot of talent to sound similar to how they did in the animated series, the music guys play a vital role in calming down the Badger Moles with their music. Not only did they make Omar and Shu both women when they clearly weren't in the show, but they got their names the wrong way round. This literally took me 2 minutes to Google search. Bloody hell, if you want to pander to the LGBT community, at the very bloody least, get the story right. As mentioned earlier, the Badger Moles in both Locke and in Attila responded kindly to music, not love. And while we're at it, this arc is completely pointless, as the secret tunnel doesn't connect to the kingdom of Omashu. It only leads from the middle of nowhere to just outside of Omashu. The next episode is about how Aang needs to go to the spirit world to save any trapped villagers. As Aang goes into the spirit world, Sokka and Katara are put there by mistake. Firstly, Sokka's impact in the spirit world makes him missing for the rest of this story arc. Secondly, Katara never enters the spirit world. They talk to Owl Wan Shi Tong, who should be at the library in season 2, making him both misplaced and anachronistically shoehorned in. Ko is not the antagonist for this problem. Instead, it's the panda who has been hurt. This flashback scene, where Sokka was gifted his pass on the rite of passage, is absolute bogus. Why the fuck would Hakoda never believe in Sokka's ability as a warrior-stroke leader, if Hakoda literally trusted him to be the main man in protecting the Southern Water Tribe in his absence? Why would Barto instill the mark of bravery if none of the other elders would agree so? Why would Sokka come up with this foolproof plan for the Day of Black Sun, which only fails because the Earth King can't shut his mouth for 10 seconds and ratted it out to Azula, if it meant he wasn't meant to have others' lives in his hand? For fuck's sake, you are making it up as you go along. And by the way, Sokka never sees a flashback when he enters the spirit world. So if you're gonna make this stuff up, why wouldn't you reenact the moment at which Hakoda leaves him 3 years ago, when that's much more believable impact on Sokka's development, without assassinating the fuck out of his character? Oh look, it's Ko. You're still 8 episodes too early, mate. Aang meets Ko and he realizes his flashbacks are all a dream. Ko is initially hostile to Aang, and even though, yes, previous avatars did piss off Ko in the past, he was still very cooperative in helping Aang in the show. Also, Aang shouldn't be running scared from Ko, or else he'll lose his face. Monk Gyatso shouldn't be in the spirit world. Say it with me. Roku should. I'm gonna skip through episode 6 because that blue spirit scene is borderline frame perfect. So now let's move on to the grand finale. When Zuko's boats explode, Iroh blames pirates, but they cut out all involvement with pirates and instead Iroh blames Ozai. It makes as much sense as it sounds. I hate to be that guy, but Yue's hair looked way better in the cartoon and in that nightmare of 2010. Avatar Kuruk did not appear this early in the cartoon. You want to know who did? Han is much more of a prick in the show, and still should be betrothed to Princess Yue. Yue wasn't a waterbender. Why is this relationship with Yue so fucking corny compared to how wholesome it was in the show? Despite Katara not agreeing with the Water Tribe notion that women don't fight, she still should give healing a go, even though she understood the basics from when she got burnt. Also, shut up, Katara. Your bending was not best suited for fighting. You are literally regarded as the best healer of all time. Why, in God's green earth, did Paku get lectured by a 14-year-old girl about equality? Only Katara should be allowed to fight here because Paku is technically her grandpa. So it makes absolutely no sense that all the other women are now suddenly talking about wanting to fight. Keep that same energy in World War III. Also, Katara is not a waterbending master in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Zhao literally kills the mood spirit with fire, not some mystical knife that Kuruk needs to tell him about. Also, Ko is supposed to warn Aang about Zhao. Momo doesn't die! And for the second time, Yue can't waterbend. When you consider that Paku didn't train Katara, nor did she learn from Aang or the healers, then the phrase, "You peasant, you found a master, haven't you?" literally doesn't make any sense. If you're gonna change the story, stop adding the same dialogue from the show for the same context as the source material. And for the umpteenth time, Katara is not a master. Sokka should not be this much of a simp. Yes, he is heartbroken, but he does come to terms with Yue's sacrifice and accepts it. Zuko doesn't kill Zhao, he gets taken to the spirit world. And those are all of the historical inaccuracies that pissed me off. If you want me to list more of them, let me know, or you can finesse it yourself and take 20,000 views for yourself. You are welcome. Katara's adaptation. And to a lesser extent, the relationship between Aang and Katara. It seems like with Katara's adaptation, they tried so hard to not make her a girl boss that they just made her a doormat until a situation needed a girl boss. Seriously, in the original, Katara was this emotionally vulnerable, yet mature and caring figure who always did the right thing, even when it went against the wants of the group. Like that time where she teams up with Sokka because Aang lied to them. Or when she nags at Aang to train because Aang wants to go off into the Kyoshi Island and show off that he's the Avatar. Right? The mother figure of the group. Where is that sass that Katara had in the show? Where was her fiery nature? Where was she a motherly figure to Sokka and Aang? And why in father-fucking fuck was she not training with Aang in the first place? Like, remember that scene in episode 2 where she literally plays with Aang by a river, right? She throws water at him. And then they have a little bit of fun. That was one of the best moments of Katara's entire character arc, to be honest. Where were more scenes like that? Why is Katara the only one training waterbending and not Aang? Why is Katara not mad that she's the only person training waterbending and not Aang? On a procrastination, I rewatched some of the earlier episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender. And Famalama Ding Dongs, that did such a good job at portraying two characters who care about each other. They talk through conflict, through praise where it's due. And guess what? They are kids, so they're not going to express themselves in the best way all the bloody time. Now let's compare to Avatar the live action.
Aang! You're family to me because I fucking said so. I am telling you through my dialogue. This is an emotional moment, Aang. You're family to me.
Okay, now I'm winging it a little bit. I'm not going to play the Mary Sue card, as honestly Katara in The Siege of the North is just as OP as she was in the cartoon. My issue is the journey getting there, right? Katara is not a natural at waterbending. She never was. In fact, it was a plot point that Aang understood waterbending literally first try, and Katara rightfully is jealous because God knows how long she's been attempting to get good at waterbending. Like, where were these little struggles to reach competence? Like, yeah, I just think they missed a huge mark when it comes to Katara, especially. Yes, Aang has his problems. Aang definitely has his problems. But the reason why I'm so annoyed at Katara is because there is a notion of wanting strong female characters in media. If you wanted a good Katara adaptation, all you needed to do was copy and paste. It just so happens that one of the most complicated and all-round great characters, no matter which way you look at it, just ended up being so one-dimensional, and that's just a shame. Right, I don't have that much more to say about this show. I'm not going to do the thing where I rate the series as a whole, because I'm far too mixed on how I feel about it. Yeah, I've spent the last however long complaining about this show, but during the moment, I enjoyed it a lot more. I just don't have a lot to say about the stuff I do enjoy. Also, I have a lot more that I do want to complain about, but it's minor things, and goddammit, I ain't waffling no more. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to summarize what I think of every episode. Episode 1, really good. Episode 2 was shit. Episode 3 was pretty decent. Episode 4 was garbage. Episode 5 was diabolical. Episode 6 was a masterpiece. Episode 7 was above average. And episode 8 was just anticlimactic. So, yeah. I am actually interested to how they approach season 2. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not going to wait in my room patiently over it. I'm going to live through life. And I do want to see how they adapt season 2, because a lot of season 2 is in season 1. So I wonder how they're going to fill in the blanks.